I stopped at Stanford on my way home from the 49ers facility to San Francisco because I have an actually accurate Brandon Aiyuk update. He's in the team facility, he's in on meetings, he's not in on practice, and contract negotiations are ongoing. See, it wasn't that hard. You don't have to have earth-shattering news every single time you speak. That's not how the world works, that's not how the NFL works. And right now, we're in a holding pattern regarding the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk, but the internet apparently refuses to accept that. People want their clicks, and people are going to make stuff up to get their clicks. Over the course of the last 48 hours, we have seen a hug between Brandon Aiyuk and Kyle Shanahan spark a rumor frenzy that has been absolutely insufferable, and it's what I've called an echo chamber. Last time I saw an echo chamber this big, people were predicting and were sure that the 49ers were going to pick Mac Jones in 2021. So what do we mean by an echo chamber? Well, look at the hug heard or seen around the world. That happened, and even though a hug should never be equated to the finalization of a multi-million-dollar negotiation, even though that shouldn't happen, multiple people made that link. And then people began guessing in their reports off of that link, hoping that they would be correct. So they saw Brandon Aiyuk happy, looked happy, hugging Kyle Shanahan, and they said, maybe a contract is done. I'm going to report that a contract is done or close to being done, and then hope that I'm right over the course of the next 5-10 hours. And if I'm right, then I'm going to point back at my original tweet and say that I was on it first. That's just not how any, reporting with integrity or any sound process should work. But so many people on the internet did that. I mean, even Colin Cowherd caught wind of this, and then he tweeted. I don't think he even reported anything. He tweeted, "Look out for a Brandon Aiyuk contract," because he had seen so many murmurs around the entire internet. I'm almost certain that's what happened with the Colin Cowherd tweet. But then people took that Cowherd tweet and they said, oh, national reporter, talk show guy, he's referred to all of this echoing, and that must mean that it's validated. That must mean that Brandon Aiyuk has indeed signed a new contract with the 49ers. But no, it was just part of the echo chamber. You're in a room, a rumor starts, and it starts bouncing off all the walls, echoing off all the walls. Just because it's echoing off the walls does not mean that that sound is naturally louder or it's naturally more legitimate. It's just bouncing off walls, bouncing off people, and obviously growing in its reverberation, but not growing in its veracity. This whole Brandon Aiyuk situation, it's worth just slowing down right now and using it as a cautionary tale of where to get your information and where not to get your information. And again, not every single update needs to bring earth-shattering news. We're in a holding pattern regarding Brandon Aiyuk. We're in a holding pattern regarding Trent Williams. At some point, these situations will be resolved. We'll see how exactly they're resolved. We can talk about the dynamics while they're resolved, but fabricating news when there is no substantive information to base that news on just isn't the way forward. Ricky Pearsall today spoke at the 49ers facility, and he said, Brandon Aiyuk was his college teammate at ASU. They played Stanford. They were in the Pac-12 at one point when the Pac-12 existed. I guess I could tie it in. That's a nice segue to where I am. But Ricky Pearsall said that when he was a freshman, Aiyuk was the veteran, who's the upperclassman at ASU, and he looked at Brandon Aiyuk as an example, as, okay, this guy is going to the pros. I have to model how I study, how I work, how I run routes after him. And now Ricky Pearsall says that he's in a similar situation with Brandon Aiyuk because Aiyuk is the veteran, obviously going for that second contract, and Ricky Pearsall's the rookie with the 49ers. So that's come full circle. But what I took from Ricky Pearsall was that Brandon Aiyuk has been in on meetings and he's actively mentoring Pearsall. He's been a very good sport behind the scenes, making sure that the rookie is well-versed in the 49ers offense and ready to go. Pearsall credited Aiyuk and he credited Brock Purdy. In the 49ers locker room, Pearsall and Purdy actually have stalls right next to each other. So Pearsall says that he's bouncing ideas off of Brock Purdy and bouncing questions off of Brock Purdy every day. But the Aiyuk stuff is what the media, for some reason, is not reporting. I'm happy to report it. But they're reporting on a handshake, and they're making the handshake this thing that's way bigger and way more meaningful than it actually was, yet something that is actually truly meaningful, but more subtle, and that is Ricky Pearsall mentioning that Brandon Aiyuk has been a resource for him every day in meetings, despite the fact that he's currently holding in. That seems to go chronically underreported. So I get it. In the social media ecosystem, drama is going to win the day. People are always going to want to amplify and click on the the headlines that make something seem spicy, but we can't just go completely overboard and start making up big time stories and big time conclusions to sagas when there's absolutely nothing firm to base such reports on. So the whole breaking news, Brandon Aiyuk is signing or re-signing with the 49ers, that really jumped the shark. That was not appropriate. And if you're a consumer of this information, do not let the online ecosystem that moves so frantically these days to try to find that next story, do not let it play with your emotions. I had so many people texting me yesterday thinking that something was imminent based on absolutely nothing but a hug. That shouldn't be the basis for anything. Practice today was interesting. Obviously, Aiyuk wasn't there, but Ricky Pearsall was. Pearsall didn't have any passes thrown his direction, but Kyle Shanahan immediately indicated that he was actually really happy with Pearsall's practice, probably will be even happier with it after he watches the tape. But he said that he noticed Pearsall's run blocking, and the 49ers ran the ball effectively at the start. I thought their defensive line wasn't looking as good as it had in previous days against the run. And it's not just the line against the offensive line, it's also the linebackers and the secondary against the receivers. And Ricky Pearsall has been able to put a hat on essentially every single running rep that I've seen. If he's taken notes from Brandon Aiyuk, who's been so good at that for the 49ers the past couple years, that's great for San Francisco, because that run game is so important to Kyle Shanahan and this team. So they got the run established today. Brock Purdy was sharp, 5 of 8 today, and Brandon Allen was 8 of 8 actually working against the second team. So I thought that it was a good day for the offense. The receivers rotate through the first and the second team, so Ricky Pearsall was part of both of those efforts. I'm going to get into all that in our 49ers camp analysis, where we'll detail all the sessions of practice today, including the kick return work that they did. That will be, though, back from San Francisco. Just wanted to take the quick stop here at Stanford, the site of the former Pac-12, and lament the very, very poor coverage of Brandon Aiyuk and that whole situation. I'm glad that we're not on the poor side of it. I'm glad that we're on the reasonable good side of it, but sometimes you got to call out what needs to be called out.